Hello, everybody, and welcome to Firebase After Hours. Today, we are talking about Firebase Data Connect, and I'm not going to be able to do it alone, so we brought a couple of guests on. But before we bring on the guests, let me remind you, let's be nice to each other. So you can use the live chat to bring your questions, and we will answer them as we go. We might not answer all of your questions right when you ask them. So it might take a couple of minutes until we get to them, but we'll try to answer as many questions as possible. But please be nice. Also, I know that there are a couple of other streams going on at the same time. So thank you very much for being with us today. And after you watch this stream, definitely go and watch the recordings of the other streams. That being said, I am now going to bring in my favorite co-host, and here he is, Noe. How's it going?
It's going. And again, you say favorite, but I think I'm the only co-host you've had.
See, it's true.
Actually, you've had Marina one time, I think, as a co-host. So I think you like me better than Marina. We all know that.
Did we? I mean, no.
In March,
so, yeah. Well, so maybe. So do you know Deja Vu's? Deja Vu? No? Because I think what you're experiencing is what's it called? Premonition, right? So you're experiencing something that will happen in the future. But let's not spill the beans.
All right, that sounds good to me.
All right, cool. So let's bring our guests. Here they are. Here is Denver. Hey, Denver.
And hey, Peter.
Ashish. Hey, Ashish.
Hey, all.
So maybe we can do a quick round of intros. People know who Noe and I are, but they don't know who you guys are. Maybe they don't. So Ashish, why don't you go first? Who are you? What do you do at Google and on the Firebase team? And maybe a fun fact about yourself.
Oh, wow.
Sorry, tough questions are coming already.
That is a surprise. So hi, I'm Ashish. I work on the Firebase Data Connect team. I'm in the SDKs team on Data Connect. I work along with Denver there, both of us on SDKs team. What's a fun fact about me? I know this is a Kotlin live stream. All my background's in Swift and iOS. So that's like an anti-fun fact, I guess, for y'all.
But it's a good one, yeah.
Cool. Denver.
All right. Denver, how about you?
Hi, my name's Denver. I've been working at Google for about 8 years now. And the last 5 years, or leading up to Data Connect, I was working as a developer on the Firebase SDKs. So I've been into the depths of the code for the Firestore SDKs. And then when Data Connect got off the ground, I got pulled in to work on the Android SDK. And that's been my primary focus for like the last 2 years or so. So I'm super pumped about this stream to show off some of the cool stuff that I personally have been working on.
Awesome.
Fun fact. Thankfully, I had a few seconds to think about it while the sheet was on the hot seat. I'll say this one. About 2 years ago, I got really interested in solving Rubik's Cubes after we bought one for my young daughter for Christmas. And she played with it for a bit, got frustrated and cried, and we were like, whoops. So we put it away, and then I was like, I've always wanted to solve one. So I got out I watched the video on YouTube, learned how to solve it, and then I started trying to do it faster and faster and faster. And I came nowhere close to the world record, but it's super fun. Sometimes when I'm coding, I just have it beside me and take a little break and solve it.
Nice.
My question for you is, what do you think is the world record for the fastest time to solve a Rubik's Cube?
Like 7 seconds, I think.
Yeah, 5 or 6.
Well, I was
record was broken at 3 seconds this year.
Oh,
that is crazy.
Yeah.
Was it just like one move and they're like, oh, did it?
No, you should look it up. It's mind-boggling.
I mean, the thing is, it needs to be somewhat comparable, right? So it needs to be like, a certain number of moves that you need to do, right? So otherwise it would be unfair, right? So if you get a brick that you can solve in one move, and I get one that I need to do 10 moves for, that would be unfair.
So in the competitions, everyone's given the same configuration of the cube. Yeah. But it was not one move. It's just a blur, and you can watch it in slow motion, and it's just wild.
Yeah. Wow. That's cool.
My record is, for comparison, is 46 seconds. So
all right,
46.3. I got a bit of work to do.
That's not bad. I mean, like, my record probably would be hours. Because I totally suck at that.
I also did the algorithmic thing where you like study the algorithm to like solve it, and I got mine down to like a minute. And when I was in college, if you gave me a Rubik's Cube today, I'd be like, I have no idea how this works. I'm sorry, and then hand it back, right? But yeah, back then, down to a minute.
Yeah,
that's pretty good. I'm on average like a minute 20 seconds. That 46 seconds was an outlier, but still my claim to fame.
My fun fact is I was born in the year that Rubik's Cube was invented, or when it came to the market. So now you can figure out how old I am. Now he knows, and he was like, "My mind is blown."
Yeah, I thought me and Peter were the same age. Apparently not.
Yeah. All right. Noe, do you want to share a fun fact about you?
I don't think I have any fun facts. I didn't realize you're going to put me on the spot like this.
All right.
I jumped off a bridge in like 2010, which was kind of fun. And you know how like when you're a kid, your mom used to say to you like, "Oh, if all your friends were jumping off a bridge, would you do the same thing?" Well, apparently the answer is yes. So I too jumped off the bridge because all my friends were doing it.
Well, that sounds wild. I mean, like, how high was the bridge?
It was long enough, or it was high enough where, like, how like you jump into a pool and you're like instantly in the water. This was high enough where you're like, yay, oh God, why am I still falling? Right? Like it was one of those things where you can still
so at least 5 meters.
Yeah. Oh yeah. It was like probably 30 feet or so.
Yeah. Well, yeah.
No, you're from the East Coast. Was this during winters or summertime?
No, this was in like somewhere in New Mexico, I believe. It was like near Taos, New Mexico. Yeah.
Okay.
Yep. I remember doing that once as a teenager, jumping off a bridge, and there were some other people with me who were diving off, and I was not brave enough to do that. But the jumping was pretty fun.
Speaking about jumping, let's jump into today's topic. We're talking about Data Connect, Kotlin, and SQL. And in the in the promo for this stream, we said Firebase now has SQL, and I think that was what we also said when we first announced the product at Google I/O. And one of the questions that I think many people might have is, oh, so Firebase has SQL, but doesn't it also have NoSQL? And so one of the questions is like, when would you want to use which? So maybe we can start there, and then dive into some of the other aspects of the tool.
You want to take that one, Ashish?
That's a. So you're saying when should we use SQL versus NoSQL? And I think a lot depends on your app, right? If your application data is modeled in a way where you need the joins and the relations between entities, then your obvious choice is SQL databases. If you can structure your data where it's self-contained in a tree, or you don't mind a little bit of duplication of data, then NoSQL is better because there's less querying. You're just fetching a full document or a JSON tree and returning it back to your app. You could use both, right? Where you could store your data as relational, and then maybe it's structured in a way where, so if you want to distribute it, you prepare it and keep in a NoSQL format for distribution reasons. That's another pattern too.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've seen the features of both really start converging, especially recently. I'd say like for especially for Data Connect, if you want to take advantage of some of the optimized querying that you can do in PostgreSQL, like table joins and all these sorts of things, or special Postgres specific queries that you just can't do in document databases, you could definitely find a place there. It feels like JavaScript frameworks where people all like, yeah, it's all NoSQL and then back to SQL and then back to NoSQL. So I don't know. I feel like at this point, a lot of it has to do with what you're comfortable with and what seems to make sense for your app. But yeah, there's a lot of convergence, it seems, especially in the realm of query features, which were historically pretty limited for NoSQL databases.
Yeah,
I feel like that's been web development the last few years, right? So like it used to be everything was like server side rendered with like PHP, and then like we brought everything to the browser and we have these like really thick clients, and then all of a sudden now we're doing all server side rendering again. And maybe it's just like the way that these patterns change over time. So it starts with like, hey, we're doing SQL for everything, and then we're like, actually, NoSQL is pretty great for scaling out and having a bunch of reads all at once, distributed, all this other stuff. If you don't care about like transactions or consistency. And then now we're going back to SQL again. So I think it's like one of those patterns that just change over time. We're like, the previous thing wasn't that bad. And every like 10 years, maybe we go through this like cycle, just my hot take.
Yeah. Software development's interesting like that.
Yeah, agree. Everything goes in cycles. Yeah. Okay, so all right. So maybe let's take a step back. So instead of saying discussing when would you choose which, so maybe we can start with what is Firebase Data Connect, and how can people use it, and some of the use cases for it. Ashish, maybe you can start us there.
Yeah, I can take that one. So I know one thing that developers have always been asking Firebase is support for SQL databases, right? And that this happens because every app you write, it always has some form of, when you start modeling your data for the app, you realize that there's always relations and in your data model, and you do need a relational database for that. So Data Connect was our offering for that, is our offering for that. It's a relational database service built on top of Cloud SQL and uses Postgres. What we do is we've taken a slightly different model approach though. We try to simplify the whole process for you, because when you write an app, eventually you have a data model. You need to have API endpoints that serve out that data, and then you need to write client-side code to fetch that data, serialize it, serialize it, and all that. So there's a lot of boilerplate and CRUD there, and Data Connect attempts to solve a lot of that and make it simple for you. So what we do is we let you model your data, so your app data model in GraphQL. So you define your data model in GraphQL types. Then you also predefine your queries for that data. And of course, mutations to alter the data, right? Mutate the data. Then what Data Connect does is it takes these GraphQL definitions, and from the GraphQL schema, we go ahead and generate and manage for you the database tables. So Data Connect is going to create all the Postgres tables for you and the database schema, and it'll, as you alter it, it'll also manage that schema for you. Now, it then takes the queries that you have and the predefined queries that you did, and it converts them into API endpoints. that are hosted on Google Cloud. And the third thing it does is it uses your data model and queries and it converts them into type safe SDKs. So these are multi-platform SDKs. We do native Kotlin, Swift, web, JavaScript, and the various frameworks like React, Angular, TanStack. And for those developers who are looking for cross-platform, we also do generate native Dart, that is Flutter SDKs. So the generated SDKs they know everything about talking to the API endpoints that were deployed, and they know all about your data model because we generated them from your data model. So all your app needs to do is link to these SDKs. The API endpoints have already been deployed for you. The SDKs know how to talk to those. So you start using those generated APIs in your app directly. So today's session is specifically on Kotlin, and I think Denver's heads down. He's very deep into Kotlin SDKs for Data Connect, and I think he's going to take us into the more details of how that SDK works and how you can use it in your apps. So I think I'll hand it over to Denver for this.
Okay, Denver, you told us that you have a demo. Can we? Do you want to dive into the demo?
Let's do it. Let's do it. Okay. Let me get my screen sharing started.
All right.
Okay.
Great.
Are you able? Oops. Are you able to see my Android Studio there?
Yeah.
Yep. I can see it.
Okay. Great. So here's I'm sorry the emulator is so small. I don't know why the Android emulator is so small, but we'll do our best with it. So I wrote this silly little note-taking app, so you can create a note, got a title and a body, click save.
Denver, could I interrupt you for just 1 second?
Yeah.
Could you,
please.
in the bottom right-hand corner, there's like a little plus sign. Could you try clicking that in the emulator window?
Oh, there we go.
Yeah, there. All right.
Okay, now we're talking. No,
oh, maybe not.
It's not letting me scroll.
Might be too big. Yeah, I think that's okay.
There we go.
There we go.
Perfect.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right. So it has like a little list of notes here at the bottom. It's not the most beautiful UI, but
they're very descriptive notes.
Oh yeah. Big note. Okay, so right now, all these notes are just in memory, right? So if I restart the application, we're going to see an empty list of notes. This was just to get my UI working. Okay. So what I want to do is plug in Data Connect to store this information in the backend. So I'm going to hide the detail for now of the GraphQL and whatnot, but I'm going to start the Data Connect emulator from, actually, maybe I will share that. So let me change my screen sharing here. So for Data Connect, we have a VS Code plugin that sort of looks after all the sort of low-level stuff about editing this GraphQL, which can, I mean, for me as an Android developer, I'd never seen it before, and it was kind of intimidating when I came to the Data Connect. There we go. So this is the Firebase Data Connect VS Code plugin, and one nice thing is you can just click right here, Start Emulators. We're going to kick off the emulator. And one thing that also happens when you start the emulator is it's going to generate the code for the generated SDK, and it will just be available there for us.
Denver, do you know if this plugin also works in anti-gravity?
I don't know. That's a good question. I mean, as far as I know, it's just a standard VS Code plugin. So if standard VS Code plugins work in anti-gravity, I imagine it should.
Okay. Yeah, I was just curious.
Yeah. Okay, let's go back to Android Studio. Okay, get this out of the way. So yeah, there's a whole bunch of Jetpack Compose code here, but let's go up to the top and let's replace this in-memory database with what we call, in Data Connect, it's called a connector. So let's connector equals notes dot instance. So this notes connector class was just generated for us. It's sort of like the entry point to the generated SDK that you can use to access the database. Now, for Data Connect, we make heavy use of Kotlin coroutines. So in order to get the stuff from the database, we're going to launch a coroutine. It's like a scope launch. And we're going to do note. Now here's where we see the magic. So we have our connector.
Mm-hmm.
We have a query called get all notes. And we execute it. Data.notes. And that's it. That's all you need to do. This is all the code was generated. This is how you get all the notes out of your database. So I do need to make a quick change to the type here. This compilation error is just because I'm now using a type generated in the SDK rather than.
Is the is there like a live? You know how in Firestore you can like listen to the database? Is there anything like that with the generated Data Connect SDKs?
It's something that we're considering doing for the future. We have a rudimentary subscribe. We call it a subscription in Data Connect. You do need to manually trigger the rerun of the query for now.
Okay.
But if that's something that you would like, we consider that a feature called real time. Please go to the user voice and voice your opinion there, because that's what we use very heavily to prioritize future features.
So,
Ashish,
yeah.
did you want to
We'll
mention
upload it
anything
now.
about that?
yeah, I think what I just want to add to what Denver said. I think our SDK APIs are set up for a subscribe model where data will come automatically to you. That is the real time that you're talking about. You can use the subscribe APIs and bind it to your UI, and your UI will keep getting refreshed as you refresh the queries. Today, you have to manually trigger it based on events in your app like page loads or navigation events. But it's something we are very actively looking into for the future. And please go ahead and vote on the user voice for this feature. It helps us get it prioritized.
Okay. Just got to comment out some code here. There we go. Okay. So I'm just going to add a note to the database in the Data Connect emulator. I'm doing it off screen, but let me do that.
And then one other thing that I noticed, so as soon as you said go to user voice, I went there to upvote it because I am impatient to wait until the stream's over because I'll forget by then. But I also saw that user voice had something about event triggers. So trigger a cloud function when data in a table type is created via insert or upsert, updated via update or upsert, or deleted. I feel like I read something recently that event triggers were added to Data Connect. Do you all know about that? Or
Yeah,
maybe
that's a really good question. So that's an example of like user voice getting voted up, and that feature is actually just shipped.
like
Uh,
this week.
yeah, it's live. So if you can go and
okay.
try it out.
Excellent.
I
Yeah.
think
So user voice might need somebody to go in there and be like, yeah, we shipped this.
I think we need to close that. Yeah, that is done.
Oh, that's cool. Great.
Yeah. So yeah, that's that's a really great example of users giving us feedback and we closing the loop on it. So but we need to close that. That is saying it's done.
Perfect. Okay, well, I restarted the app after instead of getting the notes from the in-memory database, I grabbed them from Data Connect. And you can see we have two notes here, this foobar and ASDF. Those were from the Data Connect database. And I just wanted to show the code once more. So here's Oh, we did it. We just called connector.getAllNotes.execute, and bam. So now I want to plug in the logic to create a new note. So this is the callback that's going to happen when a new note is when the create note button is clicked. So let's just kick off the coroutine. It's like a scope.launch. And we have our connector again. And I have the create note method, execute. And so we'll give it the title. And then because the body is optional, instead of giving the body in the method parameter list here, it actually creates a DSL so that if something's optional, you're not forced to specify it. So in this case,
when I was a kid, I had DSL, and that's how I got to the internet. Would you mind explaining to Peter what DSL is?
Absolutely. So DSL is a Kotlin concept where it stands for domain-specific language, which is a bit of I don't know. I don't think it totally describes it, but it's basically inside this block here, you can assign variables that will be used in the execution of this function. So it's going to get the title from here, and it's going to get the body from in here. Oh. And so any parameters that are optional in a mutation that you don't have to specify, you specify them in this block here so that you can just omit them complete.
Okay.
So maybe we'd have an optional field like tags or something like that. If you don't have any tags, you don't have to specify it at all.
Does Swift also have this construct, Ashish, and the repeater?
Yes, we do. We have also created something like this DSL where when you call the execute function, if your mutation has, so every mutation, there's some parameters are required, some are optional, and mutation can work without them. All the required ones always come in the method function. So developers, as you do your code complete, those show up and you're required to fill them up. And any optional ones are added in this block kind of a structure. And that's something that we have done custom. I think that DSL, we've used the DSL concepts to create this form of the syntax to enter your optional variables.
Is the reason behind that so that you don't have to use positional arguments, specifically when you have like very large numbers of parameters, maybe?
Yeah, that's the way. So your method signatures then become more compact, and we show you exactly what you need or is required, and anything additional, you can specify it in the structure, which is much easier to do without looking at a function with a long list of parameters.
And you can, sorry, and you can still get code completion within that body.
Yes.
Oh yeah. Yep.
I think
one other reason actually to have the optional here is there is a difference between specifying null and omitting it completely, because these parameters can have default values. So if you specify null explicitly, it will override that default value. But if you omit it completely, it will get the default value that's specified in GraphQL.
That's a really great point, Danva, I think, because when you specify null for an optional, you're telling the database service that this value needs to be cleared out. While if you omit it, then what the database service, or in this Data Connect, does is it doesn't alter the value during the mutation. And the other part is if you've set defaults on the server, then it uses the defaults if you don't but if you want to override those, that's when you would specify a null value.
Do you have an example in GraphQL of like what that looks like when you have a default value?
Yeah.
Not for me, because I obviously use Data Connect all the time. But maybe for Peter.
Yes, please.
You bet. Peter, this is for you.
Thank you.
Okay, so here, for example, are you able to see my VS Code window?
Yes, we can.
Okay, great. So here's the mutation that was written in GraphQL. It's sort of this, as an Android developer, I had never seen it before. It's kind of like this weird hybrid of JavaScript and JSON. Anyways, it's self-explanatory-ish, but we have a mutation called create note, which is going to add a note to the database. And it has two parameters. It has the title and a body. And the exclamation mark after the title means that it's a required string. So suppose we wanted to, instead, if you don't specify a title, or let's say if you don't specify a body, we give it a default here. You forgot a body or something like that. Then what will happen is if you run this mutation with omitting body completely, it will get this default value of you forgot a body. But if you instead explicitly specify null, then the body will actually be null saved into the database. Is that a decent example?
Yeah, I think that makes sense to me. Can I ask another question? Sorry, so many questions are popping into my head. I don't know if it's because I haven't had all my coffee yet or what. But I see you have the at auth level public.
Yes.
It is what would I assume that was because you're trying to get this demo together for us?
That's correct.
Yeah. What would be the right directive there instead of public? Is there what are the options? Should it be like,
yeah,
should there be some sort of like check in common expression language or something else?
Yeah. So yeah, you're exactly right. So public means there's no anyone can execute it, logged in, logged out, whatever. There's no protection. Yeah. Typically, what you'd use is user. Okay. And so you have a few. Are you able to see the pop-up window here?
Yeah.
Yep.
The autocomplete. Yeah. So user would be your typical one. So that's if you have a Firebase Auth user logged in. Then you can only run this query when you have or this particular mutation when you have a Firebase user logged in. So that would be more typical to use.
Okay. And then you probably don't have auth implemented in your app. So that's like why you just, yeah. Okay. Makes sense.
Exactly.
Yeah. Thank you.
And something else you can do that's kind of cool is suppose we had a field called author UID, which we don't, but suppose we did. We could do author UID, and there's this weird syntax _expr equals user.id. I think that's the syntax. So what that will do is it will replace the value of this field with the Firebase Auth user ID. So that lets you store that along with the notes. And then you can you can also use that as a query parameter. So when a user runs get all my notes, it only gets the notes that have that author UID.
Gotcha. Okay, cool.
Can I get back to the exclamation mark on line 2? So you mentioned that this denotes that this is a required field. So right. Does it mean that if I don't put the exclamation mark behind a type, that this will be an optional field?
That's correct, yes.
Okay, so everything is optional unless I'm very explicit about it.
Right.
Okay, cool.
Yep. However, I guess, Peter, as an exception, if you assign a default value to it, so there we go, you forgot a title. So now, even though it's got the exclamation mark, you can omit it, because if you omit it, then you get this default value. But it does prevent you from specifying null. There's this weird, because this sort of grew out of JavaScript, which has the notion of a difference between null and undefined. There's this sort of nuance that we tried to carry into Kotlin, and that's how we ended up using that block instead of just a normal. function
So
parameter.
whenever you make a change to your schema here, and even if it's just changing the string for you forgot a body, for example, does that trigger regeneration of the Kotlin SDK?
Yes, it does. So we'll definitely, I can actually show that right now. Actually, before we do that, let me switch back and just prove to you that we're now calling this create note endpoint and adding data into our database. So here's a query called get all notes. Even if you don't understand GraphQL, it probably makes some sense. So it's going to iterate over all the notes, and it's going to give us the ID, title, and body of each note. There's a little button here, so you can actually run it against the emulator.
That's very nice. Oops. I think Denver dropped out. At least his... Oh, there you go.
Good thing he was showing us the demo.
Yeah.
So events. So I am curious more about these event triggers and like what's available to them. Ajish, do you know if because from the GraphQL document, from the GraphQL spec, I guess, for Data Connect, I don't know what you call it. Can you generate an admin SDK so that way when the event trigger runs, then you have then you can still communicate with Data Connect and make the same type of queries and mutations on the server? And let me know if that question didn't make sense. It came out like word salad as I was saying it.
Okay, no, yeah, I think I don't know the exact answer, but that is one of the reasons we did do the triggers was you can watch for mutations and trigger functions like admin SDK. Yes, it's a server side thing. So
Okay, and then but I would need to generate the server side SDK, right? So I have the GraphQL database or GraphQL listing of all the queries and mutations, and then I would have to generate that, right? Is there like a generation command for the server side SDK, or is there no server side GraphQL generation?
that's a really good question.
Yeah, that's
We when we originally did this, we did not have generated SDKs for the admin SDK. So you had to what the admin SDK provided was a way to run raw GraphQL against the server. So you had to construct the GraphQL and run it. That's the more traditional use of GraphQL. Is like you form it instead of a query, run it, and get back results. But we saw how much developers loved the generated SDK on the client side, because they match your data models. So we actually brought that concept to the admin SDK. And this, I think this released just a couple of weeks back or so. But we do have Gen SDKs for admin SDK too now.
Oh, okay. Do you know
So
what languages you support with the language with the server side SDK, the admin SDK? Is it just Node or is it like Node, Go, Java, C#?
right now we only support Node. So
Okay.
yeah, those are Node SDKs. Yeah.
But still, I mean, that's pretty sweet.
Yeah.
Gives you, this really nice additional ability to implement stuff not just on the client but also on the backend. Specifically if people decide to implement something just once and then plug it into all parts of their applications. The interesting question around that though is typically, in a traditional 3-tier architecture where you'd have your client and you'd have your database, and then you'd have the application layer between that, you would have your API endpoints that you're talking to. But no, with Data Connect, if you use a generated client SDKs, we're basically building that out for you, right? And what Denver was showing us just before he quickly dropped out It's exactly that, right? You get your endpoints and you can call them, and they're also secure by default, right? Because you automatically have authentication baked in, and I think that is such a nice feature because you don't have to implement any authentication layer yourself or some sort of intercepting mechanism, and that feels like something that is such a nice quality of life.
It is. I think there's a lot of boilerplate features do for you. Setting up your API endpoints, securing them. That's a pretty big deal, right? And then there's a lot of boilerplate client-side code, or in this case, the server-side code that you would need to write to just talk to your data models, and all of that is just taken care of you with our conversion to deploying the endpoints and then securing them, and then the generated SDKs. That's a huge thing, right? Because with one save, literally, like you get all of this done for you.
Yeah.
Or one click of a button.
All right, Denver, welcome back.
Yeah, sorry for my network connection there.
No problems.
Did you guys see me when I went back to Android Studio and created a new note?
I think
No.
that is when you dropped out. Oh.
Uh-oh.
Oh no. Oh, you're still there.
I must have dropped my MacBook or something because the Wi-Fi has been really flaky lately. Okay. All right. I guess rather than switching tabs, I went back to Android Studio and I created a new note from the UI, and I'm waiting here to hit the refresh button, so that you can see it now show up here. So let's do that. So I'm going to rerun, and there we go. There's the new note that I added. So it's in Data Connect. All right. Okay. So one thing. And just
to explain for people, so what we saw in that results window, that is not a JSON file or anything, but that is the result of a query that you ran, right?
Yes, thanks for clarifying that. It's displayed here as JSON, but it got this data from a local PostgreSQL database that gets started by the emulator.
Yep. Cool.
Yep. All right, Peter, before I got sidetracked, you had asked a question before. Do you remember what that was? Or
yeah, so that was about optional and non-optional, and you were showing me that you can make a property mandatory, but still provide the default string, and then you went into this whole backstory about GraphQL being heavily influenced by JavaScript.
If I make a change here, is it automatically reflected in the generated SDK?
Oh yeah, that was what we got to then. Yeah, exactly. So even if you make a small change, it will automatically be regenerated.
That's right. So as long as the Data Connect emulator is running, which you can see here in the UI, it's running in VS Code, so we're good. As long as that's running, it's going to be continually regenerating the SDK every time you save your changes in VS Code. So
did we just lose Denver again?
Yep. No.
Oh, he's back.
Maybe not.
Database schema.
Denver, you okay there?
I'm here. Am I back?
Yes, you are.
I think so.
Okay. Let's try and keep going before it drops again. So here in VS Code, here's the simple schema for my database. Right.
Okay.
Or field.
The internet gods are not with us today.
As soon as you start explaining, you drop.
Can you guys banter for 1 minute? I'm going to switch to a different Wi-Fi network and cross my fingers.
Okay. All right. Yeah, it's the
No.
choice of the Wi-Fi. You know, also the moment when we started the stream, my mouse disappeared. So you know, I can't do anything. You know, the only reason why I can switch stuff around like that on the stream is because I have my Stream Deck, and that apparently uses other APIs. But you know, mouse completely invisible. Keyboard also doesn't work properly, right? So, for example, if I press Command Tab to get a spotlight, nothing's happening. I don't know. It's really weird.
This is how people can tell that we're live, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, live demos are always fun, right?
Yeah.
So I wanted to call out something with there while Dan was still getting his Wi-Fi together. So we've been mentioning VS Code out here for quite a bit, and I know Kotlin developers and also I think iOS developers are very not. I guess they don't use it a whole lot. But what we are using VS Code out here is for a very specialized function, right? You need to define your schema and queries, and you know we need that's the purpose for VS Code here. Is think of it as a specialized tool for defining your data model, your queries, your mutations, and configuring your data connect project. That's not, unless you want to, that's not where you're going to be writing your Kotlin code. It's going to sit alongside your Android Studio, and it's not a replacement for Android Studio here.
Yeah.
So what Denver was doing there was he started the local emulator from VS Code, and moment he edited his GraphQL files, our process was going ahead and generating the SDKs for you that were being consumed within Android Studio. So it's a very fast development process. Like you add a field in your schema to your query, and it instantly shows up in Android Studio, which your code complete will pick up.
I mean, now with lots of people using VS Code and similar IDE or VS Code based IDEs for vibe coding and for agentic development, I think a lot more people will have experience and maybe even daily experience with VS Code. So it's they might feel more comfortable. And also, at least in the iOS world, I've seen many people starting to make a move towards kind of like DIY IDEs, I want to say, right? Where you basically use VS Code or Cursor or now Anti-Gravity as the base for your IDE that is not entirely based on Xcode. And you can see a future where everything is more integrated, because maybe Xcode or Android Studio is just running on the side while you do all the work in VS Code or VS Code based IDEs. Who knows?
Yeah, that's very true actually. Yeah, I think almost every vibe coding IDE is based off VS Code in some form or the other.
Yeah. All right, let's see how the internet goes.
Okay, I think I'm back. You guys have
your
me?
entire screen too, just FYI. So if you don't want to like show pictures of like your background with like your 47 cats that you have, just a heads up.
Yeah, I did that just so it's easier to switch to and from Android Studio. Okay, let me try and squeeze this in before I get disconnected again. So I'm going to add 2 more fields to our database. I'm going to add one called created at, and we have this type called timestamp. And we're going to add one called is favorite. And we'll make that Boolean. Oops. Okay. That will add those columns to the table in my database. So that's great. Let's save that. And then I'm going to switch over to the operations. I wonder if I can split and move right. We can see both. There we go. Okay. So the create note, I'm going to change it to also take a created at.
So
and the favorite.
I see that you're adding some fields, right, to your table. Is there like a migration utility? So in SQL, when you migrate tables and you add a field, sometimes you gotta like backfill all the fields and say, oh, instead of like being a float, change it to integer or do some other thing. Does that concept exist in Data Connect today?
Yeah, it does. So right now, Denver's
ahead.
sorry, Denver. If you feel free to jump in if you have something. So I think Denver's working locally. So a lot of this is happening for you pretty instantly. There's a local Postgres running on this machine, and the emulator is kind of taking care of doing all of that for you because it's very harmless changes right now. When you actually want to do it on your production service, I should say cloud service, you can still develop against it. If you switch to the emulator panel, Denver, I think there's a button called deploy there. If you scroll down, and when you deploy to production, Data Connect actually does a lot of these checks for you. It's going to migrate the columns and everything. So if you added a column, it's going to add that for you. If you made changes to data type, or if you changed the nullability of a column, for example, it's going to check if that's a safe change.
Okay.
So we don't want you messing with your data. We try to protect that as much as possible. And Data Connect does warn you. So it's not going to just blindly do it. It's going to warn you and take your inputs before it actually migrates or does the schema migration for you.
Gotcha. Okay.
And
Cool.
at that, yeah. So there's checks. For most of the simple cases, Data Connect can migrate the schema for you pretty safely. If the change it detects is unsafe, at that point, it needs your input and it's going to ask questions.
Excellent.
I've got another question around. So go ahead, finish your thought.
No, I think I think initially I was saying, like, this is one of the things that Data Connect takes care of you is the whole schema management, and you don't have to be bothered with like managing a SQL database and running all of this. It's something taken care of by Data Connect for you, at least for simple schema changes. Go ahead, Peter.
Maybe let's finish Denver what he was demoing here, and then I'll ask my question.
Sure.
Yep. So I added these two fields, and because they don't have the exclamation mark, they're optional, which means it's going to add a nullable column to the database, which is a totally easy migration to do, right? Because they'll just be pre-populated as null. And then I went over to the list of operations and I updated the query to also return those fields. So you can see created at and is favored is now in the, the technical term is the selection set of this query. And I also changed the create note to also have created at and is favorite. So if I switch back to Android Studio, okay. So my create note function is here. And right now, all we're setting is the body. So let's also set created at. Look, it's right there. I didn't have to do anything because the generated SDK was automatically regenerated. The created at field is right there in code complete. So created at equals clock.system.now.to.
Are there also Sentinel values in Data Connect? So like in Firestore, we have like server timestamp.
Yes,
Yes, there absolutely is.
Ah, cool. That's my only question.
Oh, there we go. We can do it this way. There we go. And his favorite. Okay. There we go. All the fields were just there. So let's create a new note. We'll call it favorite. I'm going to check mark this favorite checkbox here. And we'll click create note, and we'll flip back to VS Code and make sure that it created a favorite note for us. And it also populated the created at time. So I'm going to rerun the get all notes query. And
oh yeah, there it is at the very bottom, I think.
There it is. Oh, look, it didn't pass through his...
But yeah, why is it not?
Oh, that's a good question. What happened?
Live demos.
Yeah.
Oh boy. Oh, it's because I forgot to rerun. I didn't recompile my code.
Oh.
That'll do it.
That happens if you get too used to hot reloading.
That's right. So I'm going to clear the database just so we don't have to look at a bunch of stale data. There's a clear data connect data button here. And then let's just rerun this to show it being empty. There we go. So we have no notes. So now let's flip back to Android Studio and we'll create our favorite note. And click create note. Okay, so now I'm going to flip back to VS Code. We're going to requery our database. That's better.
There we go. Nice.
So here's our favorite note. There's the created at timestamp. And it's stored as favorite is true in the database.
So my question was around that, the process of generating that type-safe SDK. So let's assume that we're working on a team, and now you're building out the Android application. And let's assume I'm the iOS developer, and now I want to build the iOS counterpart of that. So I guess the first thing that needs to happen is you need to check in the schema and the operations and all of that. And so now I pull those changes into my workspace. And then what? Will this automatically be regenerated for me? And will I be able to just go into Xcode and also use code completion and see all of those things? Or will I have to go into VS Code and kind of like trigger this generation process?
So there's a configuration in the VS Code project that tells you what SDKs you want to generate.
Mm-hmm.
If your checked-in project already had a config for an iOS SDK or Swift SDK in this case, so we would auto-generate it for you. Mm-hmm. So when you check out the whole schema and the queries project, you will get the config with it and do it. Another approach could be that since you're an iOS developer, you don't have the SDK configs checked in, but when you check it out, you add it to your local checkout, and once moment you hit save, it'll generate the iOS SDK for you. But it's basically a couple of lines that you need to add. It's like enable Swift generation and then the output directory where you want to put it out. And we also support. Go ahead, sorry.
Yeah, but once I have done that, so let's assume that we're already working on this project for a while, and so now Denver has implemented this new functionality on his end. I want to implement it on my end, so I check out the code. I need to just make sure that I've got VS Code running with the local emulator started, and if I have that and I pull the code changes, it will automatically pick up the changes, regenerate the Swift SDK, and once it's done that, I can go into Xcode and start using it, correct?
That's correct, yeah.
Okay, cool.
Did
you also consider...
No, go ahead. It's very similar to what Dan was doing here, where he's, moment he makes any changes, we are regenerating the Kotlin SDK, we would do the same thing for Swift SDK.
Mm. Is there also a way how I could do that on my CI server?
Yes, you could do that. So our CLI commands also support SDK generation. And you could use that command to have your SDKs generated as part of your CI.
Okay.
Actually, we do that for, I believe we do that on our GitHub repo for integration tests. So we have like a sample, Data Connect project with the schema and query definitions that from which we generate the Swift or the Kotlin SDKs. So yeah.
So and then the follow-up question to that obviously is about, should you check in your generated code or not, right? So in I think in the model that we discussed first, where Denver implements a new feature, I then pull the changes into my workspace, regenerate the Swift SDK on my end, and then implement my UI code that uses that. I think the mental model implicitly was, we're not checking in the generated code, but in in my question about, can we use our CI/CD pipeline to automatically generate the SDK, that implied that you would generate the SDK on the back end, in the CI server, and then whenever I check out, I get the generated SDK already, right? So
Yes.
I think the question here is, do you already have some best practices around whether or not you should check in generated code, or should you always go for generating code on the fly on your development machine?
I think the answer, as always, is it depends.
Sure.
Yeah, I think if I'm in my initial phases of app development where I'm still exploring, iterating quickly enough, I may not want to check in my Gen SDKs because I'm making very rapid changes and it's very it's not in the developed state, I guess. But maybe you're at a point in your app where your SDKs, your schema, your queries are pretty mature. At that point, maybe you want to, check in a version of your Gen SDK and keep, because eventually those are APIs, right? And you don't want certain changes to your APIs which can break your app. Maybe at that point you decide, okay, I've got a version of Gen SDKs that I want to check into Git. Or
Yeah, and
go ahead, Denver.
I was going to say, for me, I've been playing around a lot with a Gradle plugin that will generate the SDKs. Very, very similar in sort of concept to how the protobuf plugin works. So if you've ever used that, typically you store your protobuf definition files in your repository. And when you build your Android app, it will generate the code on the fly. You do not check the generated code into your source control. So I've been doing, I learned how to do Gradle plugins, and that's actually what I use for the Data Connect integration tests themselves, that I've written for the Data Connect SDK, is I have a Gradle plugin that will generate the code as part of CI, so that you don't have this extra step. So that's sort of like the alternative to checking in the generated code. But yeah, we don't really have a strong opinion on that, but I'm personally very interested. If a Gradle plugin is something that you would like, please vote for it on the user voice, because I would love to have that bumped up in priority and spend some time on it. Because I don't know if you've ever written a Gradle plugin, but it is a minefield. It's like learning a whole new programming language. They have their own way of doing things. So I have some base knowledge built up, and I'd love to apply that to actually take the plugin I've written and clean it up so it would be appropriate for customers and generic enough for customers to use.
Gradle plugins were originally written in Groovy, so it is a whole nother language. But now
Very true.
It's a Kotlin DSL.
Also, doesn't the guy who implemented Groovy now work at Google?
I don't know.
Maybe we should just ask them.
It wouldn't surprise me. Because the creator of Python worked here for a while. The creator of Vim, I don't know if he still works here, but he worked here for a while too.
No, I was wrong. So I was thinking of a different person. So
James
according,
okay.
So according to the internet, the Groovy programming language was initially designed by James Strachan and implemented with contributions by Bob McWhirter. I don't know. Does James McStrachan work at? No, apparently not. So he doesn't work at Google.
No.
Yeah, but so does that mean that there is a user voice request already out for a Gradle plugin?
I don't think so. I should create one.
Yeah,
though.
you should create it.
If some customer beats me to it,
Job security.
If a customer beats me to it, then I'll just hop on that one. Otherwise, I'll put one in there just to seed it.
Yeah. Ashish, I know that we had been discussing about something for Swift, something similar for Swift, right?
Yeah.
Like a Swift package manager plugin. What is the latest on that?
Yeah, I think equivalent to what Denver is doing, there's a Swift build plugin, I think, that you can do for Xcode. I've played around a little bit with it again. I need some dedicated time to work on it, but that's one of the things that we have on our list. The Swift build plugin, I think it hooks into the build process for in Xcode, and I think you can add it as a build step there.
Okay. So it would be different than a Swift package manager plugin.
It's configured as part of, I think that's what build plugins are, right? I think you configure them as part of your package definition. So I think what we would do is in the SDK, in the base SDK for Data Connect, we would distribute it with that, and then in your in Xcode, you would see that when you add the Data Connect SDK as a dependency, you would see that this SDK provides a build plugin that you would then add to the Xcode. I think it's build phases or one of those phases.
Yeah, but that would be in Xcode, right? So not in your if you're using package manager to build your application.
You can do it using the Swift build command too. There is a way to do it. There's a way to do it. I don't remember offhand, but there's a way to do what you're saying.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. So I had another thought around the generated code, checking it in or not discussion, and when Denver mentioned you wouldn't check in the generated code for your protobufs, I was thinking, oh yeah, so depending on the amount of code the code generator generates, right? If you check in your generated code alongside the configuration file or the DSL that is the source of this generated code, then it would become pretty noisy, right? So you have, maybe it's just a tiny little change, you add one field and boom, you've got like hundreds of lines of code, of generated code. And if you check that in, the code review becomes pretty cumbersome. And it's pretty difficult to see what was the real change. So maybe that's another thing to keep in mind if you think about, should I be checking in your code or not?
Peter, you just got to do what I do. Just hit that quick LGTM button. Boom. Good enough. It's too big to review. LGTM.
You know what? So just today, I was checking in a couple of PRs, and then Gemini Code Assist on GitHub said, mate, you know what? What you're doing here is really great, but have you thought about, doing it slightly different? And, it came up with so many little tiny things. And I was like, well, you know what? Like the times that when a human reviewer gave me that level of feedback, I don't know when that ever happened. So, it's like oftentimes, the kind of feedback that you get is very, along very tiny little details, but not the thing that really helps you. I'm not saying that people are sloppy, but it's difficult to do a good review, right? If you want to do a good review, I guess you probably have to check out the code, you have to run it, you really need to read it, and these days probably also have a model go over it and give feedback and then say, okay, so that here is my actual feedback. I human feedback.
I've been using the Gemini code assist for reviews. I think Denver's very actively uses it too.
Yep.
It's been really nice for feedback. Like it gives pretty detailed feedback. I ended up using it in combination with the Gemini CLI to suggest a fix.
Exactly. Yeah, and then you can even point the CLI at the PR and say, can you please review the latest comments on the PR and suggest how to fix it? Yeah, that's a great workflow. I love it. Yeah.
Well, if you have your code checked out, Gemini CLI works all from your checked out code too.
Yeah. Cool. No, I didn't. Did we get many questions on the chat that we didn't answer so far? By the way, I found my mouse. I found my mouse again.
There we go.
It's back.
Yeah.
I think we answered all the questions that we got in chat, and we can just go to saying goodbye.
Okay. All right. Yeah. So thanks, guys, for being on. Even despite little internet hiccups, I think we got through some really cool stuff and really good discussion there. If people want to send feedback, they can go to firebase.uservoice.com. I think we've mentioned it in almost all of our live streams now. And apparently, the feature requests you put in there, they get read by the teams and they get implemented. Sometimes we're not very good at closing them. But we've got the Firebase release notes show. So if you subscribe to the YouTube channel and watch our release notes, then you will hear about new stuff that we launch every single month. And Noe does the deep dives. So we'll dive deep on all those exciting new things. So that is definitely something that people should do. And yeah, I'm super excited about what's possible with Firebase Data Connect, and I'm really excited about where the product will go. There must be a reason why it's called Data Connect and not just Firebase SQL. So I'm guessing there's we gave ourselves flexibility in terms of what data really means. Yeah. Cool.
That's really wide open for the future, for sure.
Yeah.
I think there's some requests in user voice for other backends.
Yeah.
Ooh,
that makes sense.
I wanted to plug too. If you find issues in the Android SDK specifically, please do open issues in the Firebase-Android-SDK GitHub repository. I will personally be looking at any Data Connect related issues in there.
Can I just call you at home?
I fixed them.
Why don't you put up your phone number for me?
Yeah. 555.
All right. Cool. All right. Well, guys, thanks for coming on. And I will, now hide all three of you so I can give everybody else the outro spiel. So thanks for joining, everybody. Thanks for asking your questions. If you've got any additional questions, please drop them in the comment below and we'll get to them. And as I said, please subscribe to the channel, hit the bell so you don't miss out when we post something new. And I hope to see you soon in the next one. And until then, stay safe, and we will see you in the next one.